If you're a dungeon master, you understand how difficult it can be to keep players focused, from checking their phones to simply checking out when it's not their turn during combat, to developing their structural engineering prowess as they stack their dice ever higher. And this is doubly true for kids. But the good news is, if you take the right approach, you'll find that kids can be just as focused and as engaged as any adult. My name is Jacob. I run Dungeons and Dragons with my sons Aster and Jack and some of their friends. And I've got a few tips to help you keep your kids focused at your table. The first and most important thing you want to do is set the right expectations. Understand that kids are not going to stay focused the entire session. They're not going to remember every detail that happens. And that's okay, because the games we're running for kids don't really require that level of focus. So as long as a kid isn't being disruptive to the table, and as long as their character isn't needed within that particular scene or encounter, I allow them to drift off a bit within reason. Perhaps they need to doodle in their notepad, or maybe they need to stand up and get their wiggles out. That's fine. As long as it's not disruptive and they're not needed, then I give them that freedom. And I've actually found that not only this gives me a bit more energy because I'm not focused the entire game trying to make sure that every single kid is focused the entire time, it also gives them a bit more energy and focus when they do come back to the table and back to the game. Set expectations early. Understand that you're running a game for children and that their ability to focus is there. It just looks a bit different than it does with adults. The next thing I do is focus on pacing. I make sure the encounters are short and engaging and fast paced. If there's a moment where the kids are twiddling their thumbs, uncertain about what to do, I have no problem guiding them and even pushing them into another scene if I think it's necessary. If they are investigating something that I know is a dead end, I have no problem telling them that doesn't do what you think it does. You're now over here. What do you do? And this kind of tactic would be really heavy handed with adults, but kids benefit from this kind of hand holding. So make sure your encounters are quick, make sure they are action packed, and don't leave much space for kids to question what it is they're trying to do. Give them clear direction and something to engage with. Another thing you want to do is focus on storytelling over mechanics. And that's not to say we disregard the rules, we simply focus on the storytelling aspect. The kids say what they want to do, they're telling a story, and I figure out how that works mechanically. This could be anything from allowing them to play species that don't exist to having items that maybe they shouldn't actually have. An example of this is that my son Jack loves bunnies. And he's got one of his characters has a mechanical rabbit that he uses to make melee attacks with. He's never tried to gain some kind of mechanical benefit from having this ability. And in fact, in all the years I've been running Dungeons and Dragons with kids, I've never had them try to exploit this fact for benefit, for mechanical benefit. You know, an adult might take this and say, hey, look, I'm going to use my rabbit to go and attack it. I'm going to stay out of danger. This has never happened. I've just figured out how to make it work, and I suggest you do the same. My last suggestion is going to be one that I actually have never done myself, though I am beginning to explore it, and that is to use miniatures. This is not a necessity. As I said, I've been running D&D for a long time, and I've never used a miniature. However, I understand that putting a dragon on the battlefield is going to be cool, and that is going to draw some attention, and that will help kids be focused. Think of this more as an enhancement over a necessity, but it's one that if you can afford, I do encourage. At the end of the day, running Dungeons and Dragons for kids isn't all that different than running it for adults. You're using the same skill set, just employing it a bit differently. I hope these tips help you and your kids stay a bit more focused and have a bit more fun.